Hey there, it's Shauna. Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for April 29th. So this week is about renewed passions, new passions. I'm really excited to share the astrology of this week with you, and then I have 3 tips for you to make the most out of this week. So we have a new moon this week, but first I want to talk about Mercury because it's going to be making several aspects this week, and it's sort of a major theme with this week. Mercury is in the sign of Aries, and it will square Saturn and Pluto. It will trine Jupiter, and then it will also sextile Mars. And I'll talk about Mars and Jupiter as well in a second. So Mercury is all about thought process, communication, the words that you share, but also the words that you have in your head as well. And so when Mercury makes a square aspect, there's a certain amount of tension here. It can show up as agitation depending, on what's happening in your life. But it can also show up where there is like a need to compromise or to process things in a certain way. And when this is happening with Saturn is about diligence, it's about practicality, it's about keeping it real. And Pluto heightens this as well because Pluto is about authenticity. It's about going very deeply into things, authenticity and truth into what is the root of the thing that we're talking about. And so this aspect, it might feel a little bit intense within your thought process or your communication. What's really interesting, I'm curious to see how we're all feeling this week, is because Mercury is in the sign of Aries. And so this is already a very assertive and passionate and forward-moving type of energy being in this sign. So I'll have more information on the tips on how to navigate through this. But, this also being that Mercury is trining Jupiter, there's an expansiveness. There's a wanting to share and a wanting to learn and a wanting to just, talk it through. The other thing that's happening this week is we do have our new moon in the sign of Taurus. So this is exact Saturday the 4th at 3:46 p.m. Pacific time at 14 degrees of Taurus. And so this is a renewal of earthly matters. Taurus is a fixed sign. Fixed signs are about stability, digging into things, and growing resources. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Venus happens to be in the sign of Aries with Mercury. So although Taurus is about stability and comfort and soothingness, I also feel there's a certain amount of passion here. 14 degrees of Taurus is a wide trine to Saturn, Pluto as well. So I think it's also tapping into this energy. So beautiful new moon to connect with if you want to focus on stabilizing, growing your resources, and creating more practical things in your life. The third thing that's happening this week is Mars will oppose Jupiter. And so this combination to me tells me that it's a symbol for a desire for life, a hunger for life, a hunger for expansion. And this is because Mars is all about assertiveness, it's about confidence, it's about going after things and fighting for something. Jupiter is about inclusion, expansion. Jupiter wants to make sure that everything has been explored. And Jupiter is also about justice, morality, and, making sure that things are fair and even and done according to proper, not proper procedures, but to the higher law, that things are done in a just and moral way. And so with this combination, it is very expansive. There's a desire to move and to grow and to share, and then also to explore as well. This is another layer of this too, is that Mars is in the sign of Gemini. And so Gemini is a mutable sign. It's an air sign. Mutable signs, the term mutable comes from the term double-bodied, and so it is about this and that. It's about paradox. It's a switch off. And air sign is about communication, thought. So we have all of these layers around passion and then communication or words or learning as well. So tip number 1 for you this week is to use your words. And use your words, because this week, I don't know how you're going to feel, but it feels like there's a potential for agitation coming up in your thought process. And, it feels more like surface agitation, but like where little things may come up that would be annoyances. And so, this always happens to a certain extent, but this week it's super important to use your words in a productive way. So rather than just like letting it all smolder, getting that out, whether it is appropriate to address it with the person or situation directly, or through journaling or venting with someone that is safe to talk to. That's super important this week. Use your words. Tip number 2 is to also follow this formula when you're using your words, to ask yourself, is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? And I like this little formula. It's something that I learned from one of my meditation teachers when we were studying the Yoga Sutras, the yamas and the niyamas, because truthfulness was valued at like the top in yoga philosophy, but then there's also non-harming. And so it's like, how do you prioritize these things? And she always said, whenever you're saying anything, always ask yourself, is it true? Is it really true? Is it kind? Not just to the other person in front of you, but to yourself as well. And is it necessary? And I take that as like, is it going to be useful, but also like at a deeper layer than that, what is the effect that the words that you're saying are going to have? Like, is this effect, is you saying, and sometimes we don't know, of course, but is your communication going to have like an uplifting effect? Is it going to have a contemplative effect? Is it going to have an agitating effect? And then are you okay with that? So that's tip number 2, to ask yourself, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Tip number 3 is to contemplate where your growth is this week. And so this is very Mars-Jupiter. So what's important is I want you to tap into this energy, because it is an opposition. There's potential for it showing up in relationships, the person opposite you or next to you or whatever, people in your life, versus internally. And there's potential to use this, though, at an internal level. So Mars-Jupiter is definitely about growth and expansion. And again, there's like this energy here. There's this energy to grow. And so I want you to ask yourself, where is your growth in your life? Where are you growing organically? And if you don't feel that, if you're like, Shauna, I'm not like, I have like zero growth in my life right now, that's okay too. Like, where would you like to, or where have you grown in the past, etc. And I have had some of you request, which I'm going to make a video about, a special video, but you've requested like how to follow along in these videos when you have your own birth chart. So one place to start is I would look at where you have transiting Jupiter in your chart. So Jupiter right now is in the sign of Sagittarius. It's there until I think November this year. And so you can look at where in your chart Jupiter is enhancing, is allowing for more growth in your life. Is it first house, your outward persona and personality, or maybe, your physical appearance? Is it sixth house, which is about health matters? Is it fourth house, about home and family, etc.? You get the idea. So that's a good place to look. So tip number 3, where is your growth? And then I'm going to pull a card for us. And so this can be general for the week, or you can ponder on a specific question or situation in your life. Oh, interesting. Okay. So I pulled the 9 of Swords and I pulled it reverse. So I'm going to show you. So the 9 of Swords, it's essentially this person that is like, they're crying in bed and they're so sad. And I love the details of tarot. So there's this little detail of like these people fighting here down there. I think that's an interesting little detail. So I pulled this reverse. And I'm going to show it to you reverse because sometimes that gives like an added intuitive visual hit. So what this card is about is where there is unnecessary worry, where there is like legitimate worry and a person is worried about something and they're kind of like distraught about it. And this card typically comes up when it's like, you know what, you don't need to worry that much. Maybe the worries and the concerns are founded, but you're sort of like overworking yourself. And the fact that I pulled this reverse, it could go a variety of different ways. Maybe you're not as concerned enough about something, but my sense is that there's a certain amount of like worry that's going to be discharged this week. And so that's going to look different for everyone, of course. Some people that means processing things more actively. Some people that means, like it just happens organically. Or some people with some effort. So I'm curious what comes to you when you look at this card, the Nine of Swords, sort of like an ominous card. But honestly, I feel relief when I see this because it's like, okay, it's saying it's not as bad as you're thinking it is. And it's an encouragement to not lose sleep over things. So that is your horoscope for the week. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please share it with a friend. And I want to give a shout out to all of my patrons. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you. And thank you for watching, even if you're not a patron. I appreciate every single little comment that you leave. Those always inspire me, and I always learn things from your insights as well. So leave a comment and let me know how your week is going or what you think about the card. I always love hearing from you. Wishing you a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you soon. Namaste.